They're busy out there.
Lord knows it.
So as we know, today's our safety meeting. It's just going to be open mic. So we're basically just going to talk about things you've seen, maybe things that you heard and seen. It's just open mic. So whatever we want to talk about is up to us. Come on, Nick. You're full of stuff. Come on, give us something.
I got one for you. Recently down at Cobalt, Inframark, which is the mud district, came to install a vault for a new water line and backflow preventer. I had to stop them and make them go get a dig box because we were about 18 feet to the bottom. And even though they just straight shafted it, wasn't taking a chance on a cave in, you know, the dirt giving way. And so I made him go get a dig box, and people just, oh, we didn't have time to go get one. Well, there's no time to not be safe either.
So they were digging 18 feet deep. They didn't have it benched or sloped?
They straight shafted it. And when I asked them about staring it out, they claimed they were too close to the concrete and couldn't get it effectively. And then I said, you're stopping until you go get a dig box.
Right.
Because I told them I'm paying them, so you're on my nickel.
Right.
So it cost me 2 hours, but it was worth it.
Right.
Lack of.
And that's as simple as it happens, is if we're not out there to verify what's going on, they'll just get away with whatever they can because they want to shortchange and keep that money for themselves.
It cost us a couple of hours. It made for a little bit longer day, but at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do.
Correct.
Well, and on that one, David, there was no time to plan in advance, correct? The mud district just showed up?
Yes, sir.
So I thought. Yeah, so sometimes in cases like that, you did the right thing, stopping them, making them get the dig box. I know if you'd had a heads up, you'd had this planned out ahead of time.
Correct.
So, one thing
I
do want to bring
rather lose. I'd way rather lose 2 hours than 2 weeks.
Have somebody's life.
2 lives.
Absolutely.
Well, one I want to bring up is let's talk about our contractor, our non-contractors on gold, the gold contractors yesterday that showed up. And again, according to Nathan, we didn't have fair notice that they were coming, so we could even have masonite there so that they could run the scissor lift on masonite. But going further than that, per our company policy, we need to have harnesses on when we're on a scissor lift, even with the handrails being of correct height. So we've got a contractor that works for our client that showed up without proper safety equipment per our company policy. And we need to keep in mind that we don't have a CO on that building, so that building still falls under our purview for safety. Whether or not they want to follow that, all we can do, correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, is inform them of the policy, our policy, and what they need to do if they continue to work. They're
Correct.
kind of going rogue.
Correct. All we could do is
document and report.
correct, and then put out the email. The whole thing is the emails to the teams. I know within the last 6 months, 8 months, everybody's got complacent and only emailing out to, let's say there's a question, they'll just send the email to Jamie or they'll send it just to Jeff. Everybody needs to include the team and put the whole team. That's including the project coordinators, the PMs, directors. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's California office, Texas office, Louisiana office, everybody needs to know what's going on. So that way, being busy, somebody could see that email and I could go, okay, yeah, this was documented last week. And per se, Nathan, I did pull up the email that was documented from 10 days ago about the same company being out there without the harnesses. So,
And we had confirmation from our client that they would, from this point forward,
correct.
follow our safety protocol.
Correct.
That is
We
correct.
ran into the same thing down on, Cobalt, me and Nathan did, that the people working for Cobalt didn't wanna do the hard hat or safe PPE, or if they're in a lift or something, didn't want to have, harnesses and that. But Nathan was always good enough. He always had, spare harnesses on site and provided them when we could.
Well, on top of that,
And-
I mean,
and
as a superintendent, it's your duty to note that in your daily report so that your PMs and your PCs and anybody who wants to look at your daily report can see that you are letting them know that they're not following safety guidelines, and that they choose not to, then it's on them.
Right, we try to release the liability from us back to them, but at the end of the day, OSHA's gonna show up if that comes an issue, and they'll be like, doesn't matter, you're the GC.
Yeah, and that's like we
It
talked
all
about last
falls
night.
back to our children.
It's like I said last night. I mean, if the OSHA shows up and, well, you're the GC, I mean, why weren't you here?
Correct.
So,
Well, I think we've been handling it well, though, the right way, non-confrontational. Just give them our directives. If they're not listening, then we immediately let the client representative know. We don't want to make
Exactly.
it confrontational, you know,
Exactly.
and let the client handle it. But
Agreed.
as you're doing, document everything.
absolutely.
Well, how about this? How about this though, guys? I mean, you don't want to be confrontational about it, but if there's a safety risk, life risk there, you've got to. You got to tell the guy you got to get down. And if he argues with you, you've got to be confrontational then, because you know if it's a slip or something where he can come off and fall 20 feet, yeah, you've got to get confrontational.
Right, to the vendor, not the client. You don't want to be confrontational with the client.
Agreed.
No, not to the client. No. I just
And
think
again,
that
Paul,
maybe I missed something.
Yeah, I've had
Paul,
some
again,
conversations, kind of interesting conversations with the sub that's on site that's not following protocol, but not so much the client. But I have had conversations with the client or the vendor.
Yeah, normally it only takes, if they're not going to respond to you and your requests for safety, normally all it takes is one phone call to the client and that's squared away. I think we ran into a situation where that wasn't addressed by the client or wasn't addressed appropriately. Was that the case?
it was addressed, and Ian did agree that they needed to follow our safety protocol because it was our job site. However, it reoccurred. So it's not that he didn't address it. He got a hold of his contractor and told them that the protocol, just they didn't do it the second time they showed up. And I don't have the background on it. Nathan, was it the same people? Was it the same personnel or just the same company? That may have had something to do with it.
Same company, the same foreman. He knows.
Okay.
Different personnel that works under him, but he knows. And he was.
They definitely know that.
Yeah.
Right. So it had been addressed, and they knew what they should have done. They just chose not to for a second time.
And what was the client's response when you brought it up to him again?
Ian was like, you know, I want to see y'all's contract to see if it excludes ownership or responsibility for people that aren't sub by you and are sub by the client. And I'm like, technically, Ian, I said this. He goes, yeah, this is my space. I said, technically, it is your space, but until we get a CO, we're still responsible for the space. And I left it at that, to be non-confrontational.
All right, that's something we can bring up in the call today, how we deal with that on these locations.
Right. And that's the thing, we can't give leeway to one and then if they're there doing it, you know, our subs will be like, well, how come they get away with not wearing their stuff?
And I get that
Why
all
do
the
they
time. from my subs.
Right, they get special privileges. So at the end of the day, it's still our site until we either get the TCO or C of O, so.
We'll be getting the C of O on Thursday if the weather permits.
When we're doing contracts in that, shouldn't we have some type of verbiage in the contract to be able to cover ourselves?
It's in our MSA. It actually is in our MSA.
But this is with the client, not with necessarily the subcontractor. The client doesn't do an MSA.
It's true. But
I mean, I'm just trying to, where it's not a across the board problem, if there's some way to address it.
in this industry, it's addressed by common courtesy. I mean, you're gonna walk. Tell me, I show up to your job site, shorts, flip flops, and tank top, and everybody's in hard hat vests, and I'm gonna go, I don't work for you. Think I won't be walking on the site going, maybe I should go change.
I can guarantee you that there's contractors out there that will not walk on a site and say I should go change. They look at me, I've had an experience in the past, they look me dead in the eye and goes, I work for the owner.
Right. I was doing a Rite Aid project and the same thing.
Right.
The project manager for Rite Aid would show up in shorts, flip flops. I go, Jeff, you can't wear that.
What we decided, yeah.
He goes, I know, but you know, I'm the client. I said, doesn't matter. I still own the site until we get you C of O.
Well, what we decided is we decided to go non-confrontational and go speak to the client. And 2 days later, it took them a day, but 2 days later, they were in the proper PPE with harnesses and all the fall protection, everything they should have been.
Right.
But again, sometimes that is our only course of action, is to talk with our client and say, hey guys, they're not following our safety protocol. Right. If they choose to still not do that, then we need to look at our conversations in the future with our client and pre-contract, determine how we get there.
Right. What about, we do a pre-con, pre-construction meeting with the owner before we do a kickoff meeting? Maybe we ought to have set the level of expectation at that point.
Well, the other side of this is our job site rules. So as long as they come in, this is our job site. So that's the other thing we can bring up with the clients is, this is the basic 22s. I mean, it's just generic basics.
Yes.
So it's all there as far as task at hand. So even when the client's vendors walk up, you should be able to take them to the job site board and go, hey, this is the rules here.
Well, if we develop a level of expectations, then like pre-test plans or JAJs, whichever you want to call them, then we can at least, the client knows that we'd like to have those done.
So as we grow, yeah, we're definitely going to have hurdles and leaps and bounds, but we'll get to that point. Yeah, opportunities for sure.
I love you.
So, all right, moving on. Someone else. Thanks for joining, Noah.
Thank you.
What do you got going on?
I'm missing my screen. Hold on a second.
I had one this past week where I had a sub that was using a ladder that was too small, and they were standing on the second rung from the top, and I warned them twice. And I finally found their foreman in the back of the building, and I told him, said, look, you either get a bigger ladder or you get off that ladder, because that ladder is too small for them and it's unsafe where they're standing.
Oh, come on. I've stood on top of ladders many a times. Am I not good?
Bet you straddled one before too, huh?
Never. I've never walked ladders. I've never put ladders in the bed of a truck, but no. Good job, Nathan.
Never put the ladders in the back of the truck and used it for an extension?
No, never.
Never put them on top.
Yeah, I remember that time you told me that you strapped buckets to your feet.
I didn't actually strap them. I just walked them.
Oh, you are
Talk
good.
about a teeter-totter truck.
Keith, we should probably talk about weather being an issue.
Yeah, enough about me and my fouls. Next.
In Texas here, we've got a lot of weather coming in this week, so
Well,
it might be something that, you know, needs to be addressed so that people.
Monona and Colorado Springs are also facing some weather as we speak.
They're in it now.
Yeah.
So, yes, good topic, Terry. So, yes, as we know,
Hello?
Hello?
All right.
I'm still here. I don't know.
but
I think we lost Keith or they're muted.
Hang, yeah, hang tight, guys. I'm sure he got kicked off. We'll get back on.
Somebody hit me with a snowball, knocked the phone out of my hand.
did you throw one back? No, I don't want to know.
I'm not,
Snowball fights.
Might be a safety issue if they don't have safety glasses on.
All right.
Do they have a hard hat on?
our forecast up here went from 5 to 8 inches to 2 foot, -8. I'm calling in.
Do we have a?
I'm
Keith,
calling in sick
because
for in
I
the
don't
morning.
know. Hey, Keith, since I don't know, do we have an SOP for when roads get to a certain level that we call it for job sites, or are we?
We don't. I was actually I was gonna work on something for our operations for our delays to the client. Because it's, at some point, we have to do this. If we can't get to the job, you wake up in the morning, Paul, for instance, and the roads are iced over, just send out a mass email at this time saying, due to inclement weather that, you know, we can't proceed today or.
Right. Do we follow school districts in the area? What is do we have a protocol for closure is my question.
No.
Okay.
No, because it's just, if that's the case, we have somebody, we're down in Houston, we had tornado warnings, remember? And we were on standby.
Right.
So as soon as the standby would have happened, yeah, we would have shut it down.
Right.
If it would have got that bad. But that's the thing,
Well,
we
and
can't.
keep in mind that we all live a great deal away from the office. Rocky probably as far as anybody. Well, no, Greg further than anyone. Oh, Ashley beats everybody.
Yeah.
So again, as we come from some of these locations, traveling 50 to 60 miles to get to the office or job sites may not be safe for us.
Right. And that's where Snowmageddon, the same thing. So we ended up having a
Cut down.
email that just said, stay home, we're calling it.
Okay.
But yeah, you can't get to work. I mean, if you get out on the highway and you're like, you can't pull out of your driveway, just send an email or something stating that, you know, you got to work from home. I mean, that would probably, and make sure you include Becky on it because she is our HR.
Great.
And of course, whoever's on your team, that way everybody knows that you're safe and not risking any
Life and limb to get to work.
Why don't you give me a cost code for a Jeep and I'll just be here every day?
You want a side-by-side? Is that what you're saying? Let me see if it's in the budget.
The answer is no.
Right. Always no, allegedly. So, but yeah, inclement weather's gonna be happening. I mean, we're gonna be 21 degrees tonight through tomorrow morning and the high of 54. So chances are we will have sleet, and snow and ice on the road. And same thing come Thursday.
Yeah.
It will carry on till Friday.
Sorry, guys. I can send it out today if you want to wait till later today to see if they can send it back to me and then.
Somebody on their iPhone 13 needs to mute, please.
Oh, no, they need.
Oh, sorry.
Anyways. Yeah, you're right. The instructors need to send it out.
They're saying once we go below freezing on Wednesday night, we won't get back above freezing until Saturday morning.
Right.
I don't know who that is, but they muted. It sounds like, or they've gotten quiet. There you go.
So that's why I say we have this inclement weather is going to be hitting down per the forecast. So, like I say, the staff and team here in Texas you know, like I say, I'm pretty sure if you can't get out of the driveway, you're definitely not gonna make it on the roadway, so, take that in mind and, be cautious and probably work from home. But again, make sure we get the emails out to the team that way we know that you're all are safe. Rebecca, you on?
That all goes back to the whole no call, no show thing. It needs to be mandatory that they do that so that we all know what's going on.
Right, and that's gonna be the same notion at the job sites. You need to, you know, if you guys can't get out of the driveway, same thing, send, as a superintendent, send me an email or a text saying, hey, I'm stuck, I'm not gonna make it today. That way we get the email out to their team, letting them know that, you know, due to the inclement weather, we're not able to perform work at the site, and we can move from there. And then then the PMs and the ops could actually let the clients know that, you know, due to the circumstances, we had to hold a day or two, or.
And to go one step further, your subs that are on that site, I mean, you can also let them know that, you know, depending on the weather, you may or not come in, and you would need to let them know so that they don't show up without you being there, if they're even able to.
Right. So that's
Yeah,
why
I was gonna say,
definitely let everybody.
I was just gonna add on to that. In places like Colorado and Wisconsin, they're used to the weather that, you know, obviously Dallas is not used to. And so those subs will be showing up at that job site. It's just another day for them. So it's real important, like you said, to communicate with the subs.
Agreed.
Agree. So that's where the communication comes in from the top down. I mean, with the subs, the same thing, so. All right. Anybody else? Oh, Rocky's like Nick. He always has something to say, but he's quiet this morning.
Going once, going twice.
All right, next, anybody?
We also need to go over with our subs as far as inclement weather, dressing appropriately. Now, a lot of people, when it's cold, like to wear toboggans under their hat, their hard hats, things of that nature to stay warm. Like in Colorado up north, I mean, they need to be wearing gloves too to keep from getting frostbite.
Right, and remember, when you get out of your vehicle, no longer big strides, shuffle along, because you don't know where that ice or the black ice is gonna be. As we talked about this, I'd have to pull it up, but I know I have it about cold weather.
Shuffle.
Right.
Something to look
Right.
into for the guys in the frozen atmospheres. They make a thing called a yak track that is basically like a rubber bungee cord with springs that goes on your shoes that gives you excellent traction in snow and ice.
Oh, nice.
I have to look into that. I never heard of that.
Yeah, they work pretty good. Just going over your normal boots, so then when you get to the job site, you can pull them off.
Cool.
Yeah, I know. On some
Send me the link, Noah, so I can send it out to everybody.
Will do, bud.
Right.
So how you doing down there in San Diego, Noah?
Good. It was great until we got our orders confirmed for shipment. So now we got clouds. So I'm praying I get everything off the truck before we have any type of moisture today. But we're gonna knock this one out and move on to the next one.
Yes, sir. So any concerns or issues that you've seen while you've been down there with the homeless, breaking into your porta potties, anything like that?
No, now we're kind of at the stage where we're putting dirty toilets back on. So for the future, I would recommend that we have our hotel staff clean all the commodes before we remove them and then reinstall them, because we're finding stuff stashed in places that shouldn't be. And it's kind of one of those, you know, the dirtiest end of this job at this point, but other than that, not too bad.
Okay. Anybody else? Rebecca, are you on?
On that, what you were just mentioning there, Noah, you know, in an emergency situation where we're pulling out toilets so things can dry out, I don't know that it's very feasible to have the hotel staff clean those ahead of time. But I think that it would make a lot of sense once we know we're going to reuse the existing equipment, you know, rent a pressure washer, put down a tarp, put all those toilets out there, get them a good scrub before you're handling them all. Or, you know, I don't know, I guess they got handled to get down there too, but it's definitely something gross. And last time around, we were able to get them to buy new toilets for the whole, you know, 90 rooms or whatever. This time, not so lucky, but maybe we need to build that cleaning into our process. I just think once the job site is turned over to us, we're not going to be able to get hotel staff to come in there. I don't think it'd be very feasible, but I think it is a good idea that we definitely need to accommodate for in the future.
Maybe not a hotel staff, but maybe a cleaning company to come through and clean them before they're pulled. You don't want to be hosing those off in the parking lot or what have you. It'd be, I mean, granted, it is downtown San Diego, but we don't want to have that down there either. Fuel to the fire, if you will.
Yeah, it's not just raw sewage, it's needles and it's everything else. So there's a few things that if we move them too much, the toilet bolts that hold the bottom to the top are so rusty that they just break off. So we're going to end up rebuilding these toilets if we move them too much. That's one of my concerns.
Yeah. And I know this is a little...
Are they wearing anti-puncture gloves when they're pulling these things because of needles and things like that?
So far we haven't pulled into any of the bowls where they're finding it, and it's the same thing. We're trying to be as cautious as possible, but no, I have not purchased any anti-puncture gloves. You know, this job wasn't as bad as the last one, but we still are finding stuff that's of concern. And
I've heard stories of the last one, so that's why I ask.
No, absolutely, and you know what I mean. It's the one that you don't see that gets you. So that's, you know what I mean. But it's just whatever these people are thinking, they have no brains, and it bothers me. Just like I said, just so we see it ahead of time, and then somebody else, but the same way.
Hey, Keith.
Yes.
In New Jersey, I had to demolish a bunch of crack houses. We had to go through training for needle protection and that sort of thing. Is that something we might need to do to those people?
It might be worth, yes, looking into for sure.
Okay.
I think it's a real concern on especially these flood projects that we've had a couple in a row for. So that would be really good.
But yeah, the puncture-proof gloves are, I think they make a Kevlar, don't they make a Kevlar glove that is puncture-proof?
I do believe so.
I'll interject here just a minute. I've done a lot of training for medical facilities, and there's really no such thing as a puncture-proof glove. There's certainly puncture-resistant gloves, and those help tremendously for exposures to things like needles and that sort of thing.
Right, because I can see that point. The needle is itself at the point is very small, minute.
Yeah, it'd be hard to get anything puncture-proof.
All right, anybody else? Anything?
I have a suggestion for next meeting. Can we move this over to Teams? there are a couple bad links. I know I was sitting in a lobby waiting to be let into a meeting that wasn't going on for a while. And I think that happened to some people on my team as well. Would it be okay if we move this over to Teams for the next go around?
It's funny you mentioned that because Jim and I were talking about that this morning, actually.
So I figured
Okay.
out if you hit the join the link, it doesn't go through. But if you actually go down to the listing of the meeting and you push on that link, it does go through. But you have to go down to the bottom of the invite page, not their quick link for join the meeting.
Right.
All right, anybody else? Jeff, you got anything out there that you want to bring up?
No. The third party was the big one for me.
Okay. All right, well, we'll end this on a good note, and we'll work on who's going to be helping assist with the next safety meeting. I'll draw a name and we'll go over, and then we'll have a topic that we could discuss with your assistance. We're going to actually start participating the team into the safety calls, so that way it's not Jim, myself, or Mr. Reagan out there in Colorado.
What?
I knew he was going to say something.
Did anybody, did we have any accidents within the last 2 weeks? Anything? Anybody? Cuts, scrapes, punctures, falls, anything? Okay, well, I like that silence. Good job, guys.
Well, I cut my hand at home, but that don't mean anything.
I don't care. I don't care.
Hey, remind me when I'm coming to see you, Paul.
Never again.
Okay. Again, let's emphasize on whenever the job is not working, that we put the team on, as well as any correspondence and emails. Please put your guys' team on. That way everybody's aware from the top down, and that way if there is a question, somebody else could jump in and ask that question to, whether it's the client, whether it's the soup, whether it's myself, it doesn't matter. At least that way the team is all included and they know what's going on with every project. I mean, that's very important, especially moving forward as we're growing here. That way, you know, if Jamie doesn't know what the hell's going on in El Paso, well, what do you mean he doesn't know? 3 people got hurt. I mean, so that's why I say you just got to include everybody, whether it's the Texas office, California office, Louisiana. I mean, I know eventually we're moving to Georgia, so, you know, it would just be the team and make sure we include, you know, Paul and Jeff and all those emails, essentially.
Whoever your
and
ops manager, project manager.
all the way up to the press. So
Yeah.
that way, even though he could glance through it pertaining to Paul, no, not Paul Reagan, Paul Gruner, he could skim through it, and that way if something does pop out to him, he could jump in and respond to appropriately to whoever. I know, like I say, within the last 8 months, we have had a lot of changes in faces or what have you, but let's please make sure we include everybody on in the team. Again, from the project coordinator, and definitely myself and Rebecca if there's injuries. I don't need to be included. Rebecca doesn't need to be included on everything unless the job is not working. Include me if there's safety concerns like Nathan brought to our attention last night about the harnesses. So that would be something that you include me in, not so much the guy didn't show up to work. I don't want to know that. That's going to be the project manager and what have you. But when the sites are closed down, include me on those. That way I could verify that I know that you guys are okay as well.
Jamie,
Yes, sir.
yeah, put in my transfer for Georgia, please.
don't think Jeff wants you out there.
I have duct tape.
All right, anything else?
Safety issue and an HR issue all in one sentence.
Right.
All right, y'all, anything else? Anybody? Going once?
Sold.
All right. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you all next month, except for we have a call tomorrow.
Thank you, Keith.
So,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
everybody.
Keith.
thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, bye.
You got the mouse right there.